village of Kitala wasn't on any map, a scattering of clay houses, a market that opened only 3 days a week, and a single dirt road that snaked into the bush. For years, the world had overlooked it, until the miners came. Not the giants with machines that roared like iron beasts. These were small-scale miners, artisanal diggers, armed with shovels, pans, and generations of knowledge. They arrived quietly, but their presence changed everything. Marina remembered the first time she met Emmanuel, a miner who worked the riverbank. He told her, "People think artisanal mining is just about money. They don't see the stories behind every speck of gold." At first, she didn't understand, but over time, she watched those stories unfold. When the miners struck a good vein, the first thing they did wasn't buy new clothes or fancy phones. They gathered in the community hall and discussed what they would repair next. The school roof had leaked for 5 years. The government promised to fix it, but promises didn't hold up against the monsoon. The miners made it their priority. Within a month, Kitala's children had a dry classroom and proper desks carved by local carpenters, paid with gold proceeds. That was the first ripple. More miners joined, and with them came new opportunities. Women who once had to walk 3 hours for clean water now worked in gold-sorting cooperatives. Young men learned to maintain mining pumps and share profits fairly. And suddenly, Kitala buzzed with a kind of energy Marina had never seen. One evening, she walked through the village and saw something remarkable: lamplight glowing from every doorway. Before the miners arrived, electricity had been a distant dream, but they pooled funds to install a community generator. Now children studied at night, parents mended fishing nets, and elders could gather and tell stories after sundown. "Gold lights our homes," an elder joked, "but not the way outsiders imagine." A year passed, and Marina began documenting the transformation as part of her volunteer work. She visited every household, collecting stories for a report. One day, she found herself at the river where Emmanuel still worked. He greeted her with a tired smile as he sifted gravel through his pan. "Do you see now?" he asked. She nodded. "I see more than I expected." He gestured around him. "People talk about artisanal mining like it's a problem, but what about the bridges we've built?" He wasn't speaking metaphorically. The miners had literally built a bridge, 2 sturdy wooden spans that connected Kitala to the neighboring town. Before, it took half a day to reach the clinic. Now a motorbike could cross in 10 minutes. Infant deaths from treatable illnesses plummeted. Kitala's bridge was more than timber and rope. It was a lifeline. But not all change was easy. Marina witnessed debates, heated ones, about land rights and fair distribution. She saw miners argue over unsafe pits and the need for better equipment. She saw the weight carried by men like Emmanuel, who felt responsible for every young miner learning the trade. Yet, even in struggle, she realized something profound. This wasn't just an economic activity. It was a community, a circle of shared responsibility. Artisanal gold, she realized, wasn't measured in carats. It was measured in classrooms, safe roads, clean water, and opportunity. By the second year, Kitala's school expanded to include a secondary level. A simple clinic was built with solar panels purchased from mining proceeds. Women formed cooperatives to reinvest part of the gold earnings into micro-businesses. Farmers purchased machinery that tripled crop yields. Visitors began arriving, researchers, journalists, NGOs, eager to understand the Kitala model. They marveled at a village that had once been invisible, but now was thriving, resilient, self-led. Marina stood again on the hill, watching as children in bright uniforms ran across the schoolyard. Somewhere in the distance, she heard the rhythmic tap of metal on stone as miners worked. The sound echoed like a heartbeat, steady, determined, alive. In that moment, she understood the untold story.
Artisanal gold wasn't just an economic resource. It was a thread woven into the social fabric, a force that built futures, not fortunes. It funded education, shaped leaders, sparked innovation, and nurtured dignity. It turned forgotten villages into thriving ecosystems of hope. And somewhere by the river, Emmanuel lifted his pan, the early sun catching the smallest glint of gold, tiny, almost invisible. "Funny," he said when she asked him about it later. "People look at this and see money, but when I see it, I think of a child learning to read, or a mother who doesn't have to walk miles for water." Marina smiled, because now she saw it too.